Yes. Okay. Hello. Welcome to episode 3 of This Might Be a Cult, called Neurodivergence, Evolution, and Profits, the fine line between theory, insanity, and the divine. Hello, I'm your host, Higag, and this is my ain't shit crew, so say hello again, guys.
Hello. Hello, world.
Okay, so welcome back. Today we're dropping the question, are prophets just the original neurodivergent icons? Because sometimes what people call divine vision might just be a touch of ADHD with some schizotypy tossed in for a little extra flavor. It's all a part of the spectrum I personally like to call the tism. So, before I start, I would like to share the definition of neurodivergent for those who do not know what it means. The definition of neurodivergent, according to Oxford, is differing in mental or neurological function from what is considered typical or normal, frequently used with reference to autistic spectrum disorders, not neurotypical. So, before I go into this, though, I'm going to delve into my views on evolution and how it relates to neurodivergence first. Yeah, I know I ain't shit for starting with neurodivergence being a mystical thing, then switching it up immediately to the theory of evolution, but let's be real. It will build up suspense for a much better payoff. Or completely fall flat. Because let's be real. I ain't shit, so that's definitely a possibility. So, humanity is still evolving, okay? And evolution is about continuing to pass on your genes, like survival of the fittest. It is most easily associated with physical features, since that is the most observable aspect. But with these new features, new behaviors also arise, these new features or tools, to utilize these new features or tools properly. So an example would be like the evolution of the giraffe's long neck and its behavior. The feature? Giraffes have freakishly long necks. Not for fashion or neck kisses. This is a genetic adaptation. Most people think it evolved just to reach high leaves, the classic stretchy snack logic, but there's more. The behavior that followed the feature. So it turns out that male giraffes use their long necks in a ritual called necking. And no, it's not the romantic kind. It's full-blown combat. They swing those noodle tower heads like wrecking balls on stilts, slamming each other in the sides to fight for dominance and access to mates. So, the neck evolved as a feature for reaching food, which is a physical adaptation. But the neck-based behavior evolved, head-bashing combat as a social and reproductive tool. So, what happens when a species gets to the point where physical changes no longer become necessary to survive? The genes that shape their behavior become the target of evolution. So, it is my belief that this is shown in humans through neurodivergence. Now, don't get me wrong. Not every neurodivergent individual should claim to be the next step in human evolution and believe they are superior to others, because there are definitely some harmful neurodivergent individuals out there. But there are also those with strengths that are necessary for us to evolve as a species. Often, these strengths do come with some detriment, though, let's be real. People with ADHD have great pattern recognition, are able to easily spot changes in their environment, and can easily bounce between multiple tasks at the same time without losing steam. But feeding themselves, keeping their house clean, hell, even finding the keys they literally had 2 seconds ago can sometimes be beyond them. This doesn't make them inferior or superior, just different, and that is what makes humanity beautiful. We all have something to offer, and for what we lack, others can assist with what they have to offer. Neurodivergent or not, we are all valuable in some way, shape, or form. So, I believe we should all celebrate our strengths, accept our weaknesses, and celebrate other strengths even if we don't possess them. Humanity has made it this far by working together, right? So why not keep that energy going and optimize it by allowing everyone to do what they're good at rather than trying to force everyone to fit into the same box? I mean, seriously, what is wrong with that? We would advance so much faster as a species if we allowed everyone to do what their brain was built for instead of just following an outdated system that only tries to keep us controlled and divided. But that's a rant for another time. At this point in our evolution, as a species, it is our behavior that needs to change to make sure our species does not go extinct. So, all animals have inborn instincts, right? These are the things that keep them alive. Humans are the same because, let's be real, the only difference between us and animals is that we have the ability to think with more complexity. So we automatically just say we are superior and are unlike other living beings, thus arrogantly claiming we don't have these base aspects that all life shares. So, but instincts are what keep the species alive, right? So, and we are obviously flourishing by survival of the fittest standards. But to continue to flourish, we need to evolve past our base instincts. And this is when I'm going to call in the ain't shit crew. Okay? So, you guys want to have some fun and guess some base human instincts?
Let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to start taking notes on some of your guesses, and then I'm going to bring up a list after. A complex list, because I'm not going to talk about every single one. So let's start going. Shoot. Have fun with it. You ain't shit, by the way, guys.
Oh, you ain't shit.
You're all the shit, guys. I love you.
Love you.
Okay, take some guesses. Don't be shy.
What are we guessing?
Base human instincts.
Oh,
Yeah. Everything.
Like for what
Safety?
situation?
What?
Like for what situation?
Okay, so safety. So basically by saying your safety, keeping yourself alive, self-preservation.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, self-preservation on Danny, okay? Shoot, guys. Got any guesses? Have fun with it.
Enrichment.
I'm gonna type that in. I'm gonna type that in and see how it kind of compares to some. Okay, because in a way, yes, but in a way, it's like too wide of a statement. You know what I mean?
Greed.
There we go. Okay, greed. Come on, Ledoux. You're letting Danny take all the guesses. It's Danny. Come on.
He's got good insights. What?
Ego.
Paranoia.
Okay. 1 second. I like paranoia. So, paranoia. Okay. I'm just keeping notes, guys. I'm going to give you, we're going to go until 8:28 with these guesses. So, just throw them out here.
Ego. Fear.
Fear is going to go along the self-preservation lines, I'm going to say.
Okay.
Come on, Ledoux. I have more faith in this. I have more faith in you than this. I may have been wrong because I ain't shit, but come on.
There's hunger. Motivates.
Okay. Feeding, nourishing oneself, okay?
I mean, reproducing.
There we
Yeah.
go. The most base one. Thank you. Like I was
One of the things around it not seem like it's all we think about.
but we're men. Of course it's all we think about, right?
I'm thinking about it right now.
Okay. Come on, you guys got about 60 more seconds on the clock. Time's ticking.
Thirst? No.
That was nourishment. We already cut.
Ego was a solid one. I mean, people want to feel powerful. Yeah, I don't know if you got that one down or not.
Danny said ego. It's already on his list.
Yeah. Yep.
Ambition.
Okay.
Took me forever to think of that one.
It was forming allies.
Okay, there we go. Okay. There we go.
Dominate others.
It was revenge.
Spite.
Okay. And we're there. Okay, perfect. Okay. So, dominating others. Danny, you're still on that fucking sex thought, aren't you?
Yeah, one track mind.
Okay, so right now, I'm going to cover your faces for a second because we're going to just bring up your guesses. And
this text is so heavy.
we're gonna go to be right about. So this is more of a in-depth list than we're gonna freaking talk about. So let's start going down them and seeing What gems you guys guessed? I'm going to read through them first and then connect them. So the core human instincts, the survival starter pack. Survival-driven instincts are self-preservation, the duck, dodge, run from danger, and scream at spiders. We have fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which is the nervous system's panic menu. Territorialism, this is my energy, from toddlers to landlords. Risk aversion, the gut scream that says don't jump off that even though it looks fun. Shelter seeking, gotta have a cave, house, or emotional support blanket. Thirst and hunger drives, literally everything breaks down if we don't take care of our meat bodies, let's be real. Rest and sleep drive. We got the social and tribal instincts, which are the in-group and out-of-group mentality, the tribalism, we good, they sus. The hierarchy recognition, knowing who's the alpha in the room, or at least acting like you care. Mimicry, imitation, monkey see, monkey do, now with like fashion and slang. Reciprocity. There we go. Okay. Give and get. Social glue. Even toddlers understand it. Shame and approval seeking, the fear of exclusion from the group, which is the modern version of likes. We got the reproductive and the sexual instincts, which is the procreation and sexual drive. You already nailed this one. You got a must make baby, or at least must smash. Mate selection, which is the complex but instinctual, driven by signals like symmetry, health, confidence. The jealousy and pair bond protection. Keep your partner, keep your genes in the mix. We got the emotional and psychological instincts, which are greed and resource hoarding. I need all the things forever just in case. Revenge and justice seeking. Vengeance is the dish best served evolutionarily. Denial and cognitive dissonance avoidance. Lie to yourself and stay sane. Kinda. Curiosity, the drive to explore, discover, poke things with sticks. Play and humor, social bonding and stress relief. Even chimps joke around. Empathy, mirroring others' pain or joy, reinforcing cohesion. The fear of death / immortality drive. Build a legacy, have kids, start a podcast, anything to outlive your body. Higher order compulsions, which are still rooted in base instincts. Storytelling, to preserve knowledge, bond the tribe, and explain the unexplainable. Pattern recognition, essential for survival, but also why we see faces and toast. Meaning making, the compulsion to explain pain and purpose, like why did that squirrel flip me off? The spiritual impulse, some say divine, some say brain trying to organize chaos. And the bonus instincts, status seeking, defensiveness, nesting, protecting your young, and the addiction and prone reward seeking. Now, let's see. How did you guys do? We got Danny got self-preservation, so he's going to get an X. Good job. Enrichment, I'm going to say that is going to, we'll come back to that because that's a lot, man. That covers a lot, too much. Greed, 100%. Ego, not necessary as a survival.
I agree.
Yeah. Ambition, yes. That is more in the hierarchy. Like knowing who's the alpha in the room, or at least, being willing to the recognition or trying to take a dominating of others. A little too open, sir.
Yep.
Paranoia. Yes. That is definitely one where we could call that that could even be tied to self-preservation, honestly. The risk aversion, honestly. Shame and approval seeking. Paranoia, I'm going to give it to you because could cover a lot. The nourishing of oneself. Yes. Reproduction.
Yeah.
I don't even feel like you deserve points because that was a given, but, yes. The tribal mentality and revenge. See, Ledoux, you really let Danny start up with that much steam. And yes. What was that, Danny?
You needed inspiration.
You keep telling yourself that. Okay, so now, since, we haven't given any respect to him, look at him. Merp is so cute. He's just a precious baby. Okay, so the 5 we're going to talk about right now, though, are... We're going to focus specifically on greed, denial, revenge, tribal loyalty, and procreation. Okay? All of these instincts have allowed our species to increase in number exponentially. However, they are also what will bring our downfall should our behaviors not change. And let's break down why each of the instincts was necessary for survival before, and after that I'll break down why they are detrimental now. But first I'm going to drink some water, and also tell my friends, you guys, I love you, you're all the shit.
You are also all of the shit. Just a big pile of shit.
There we go, okay. So, base instincts and their benefits in the past. Greed. So greed is necessary for survival for a very simple reason. The Homo sapien, Neanderthal, or living creature in general who does not share their resources is more likely to survive. Think about it like this. If every caveman shared their limited resources with other cavemen who were starving during a harsh winter, they would be less likely to survive now than they would. If they shared, they have less food to continue their lineage. And the caveman who hoards their food and does not share is more likely to make it through the winter. Thus, they pass on their genes. And this trait that has aided in their survival becomes ingrained into the species at higher rates, since the other, more sharing approach is more likely to result in their death. Denial. Denial as a human instinct may have aided prehistoric humans in survival by mitigating the anxiety and despair that could arise from facing harsh realities, such as mortality and the potential for danger. By selectively ignoring or downplaying negative aspects of reality, individuals may have been more likely to take risks, continue procreation, and avoid the paralyzing effects of fear. Revenge. In prehistoric times, the instinct for revenge may have helped humans survive by deterring potential aggressors and maintaining group order. By retaliating against those who harmed them, individuals and groups could discourage further aggression and protect themselves and their resources. This sense of justice also fostered a sense of community and loyalty, strengthening social bonds within the group. Tribal loyalty. Tribal loyalty, a strong human instinct, significantly boosted prehistoric human survival by promoting group cohesion and cooperation, essential for hunting, defense against predators, and shared resource management. This social bond also facilitated the sharing of knowledge and skills within the group, further enhancing survival prospects. And procreation. This one is obvious. You have to pass on your genes somehow, plus almost everyone wants to get laid sometimes, right? Okay, and I'm going to go look at what Ledoux said. If the one hoarding resources gets attacked, they might lose their resources. Yes, and that's why they have to convince everyone that if they lose their resources, everyone else loses out. That's how the rich get us still. That's a conversation for another day. Okay, so now these base instincts that, took care of us back in the day are kind of detrimental to our survival now, such as greed. Now that we have the ability to take care of everyone with our advances in technology as well as our knowledge of agriculture, we no longer need to hoard food. We also have quite large swaths of land that go unused, yet we only allow people to stay in small areas. We have the ability to take care of everyone with ease, and even in this flawed system where everything must have a monetary value, we have the ability to still take care of everyone if funds were allocated properly and utilized for the good of all, as opposed to being hoarded by the top point, too many zeros, 1%. Greed as an instinct is shown through the billionaire class, and it is to the detriment of our continued survival. Denial. Denial may have assisted in our species being willing to do what must be done to have a chance of survival, but now it's detrimental to not only the individual, but to our society as a whole. On the basis of the individual, when you deny reality, you deny your feelings, you deny the truth for what it is you already believe, you not only harm your mental health, but you interact with the world in a way that causes further division. Denial within society at large allows for those who control us with misinformation to further divide us and distract us from their actual intentions. Now, revenge. What was once deterrence, now is just something that causes the flames of wars to be stoked. When we continue to act in revenge as a deterrence, all we do is create further separation when unity is needed for survival. Tribal loyalty. The us versus them mentality further fosters the idea that we are different and makes unity seem like a fantasy, while also fostering the idea that domination by your tribe would be the key to a true utopia. And procreation. At some point, we gotta ask this question. Do we really need to create more humans at the rate we do? Sure, having 1 or 2 children to continue the species is important, But when you decide to have more than you can take care of, it not only harms the children, but impacts the world negatively as a result. Also, the record for most children born to one woman is, wait for it. You guys want to take a guess?
India.
I was saying the number.
Oh.
It's funny. It would make you giggle.
It'll make me giggle. 4.20?
Okay, that made me giggle. What'd you say?
69?
Yes, sir. 69. First,
Nice.
I have to say, bravo for stopping there. And second, I want to point out the irony that if they had 69'd a bit more often, they maybe wouldn't have had so many children. So,
Bad.
okay. Oh, okay. Thank you for that, and also you ain't shit. So, before I get into how I believe neurodivergence is part of our evolution and the key to our species' survival, I'm going to touch upon how in the past it may have also been helpful. Before that, though, I'm going to let the ain't shit crew chime in on some of their thoughts about what I shared before I go into that lecture energy, because I ain't shit.
I'm ready for the lecture.
I will say about greed, I think it's good to have a moderate amount. Too much like we have right now is bad. Too little could also be bad, just because greed is kind of a push for like inventing or creating and doing stuff.
But
Takes just a little bit of greed to want to
no, it doesn't.
actually make it happen.
No, that's a lie they've spewed
really-
us. It does. Okay, it doesn't
No,
take.
I'm telling you, like, it's like charity. I give to feel good. I don't give when it feels bad. So that's my greed.
Okay, well, yeah,
I want to feel good, so
but
that's my greed pushing me.
Technically, that's not technically greed. That's more of a sense of
I
just
want to feel
self-affirmation. Yeah, but that's not what greed is. Greed is hoarding,
But
even at the detriment of others. What?
No, greed is just to want. If you have too much greed, you want too much and you take too much, then it's a bad thing.
Intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, or food. And an intense desire is going to come at the detriment of others. So,
when it's too much,
Some might say that greed is necessary for self-preservation.
yes, it was at one
You have to
point,
want
but
more.
that's the thing. But they say that that's a conversation for another day, but like you don't need a society filled with greed to continue to invent.
Not Phil, no.
But
That's what I'm saying. When it's this far, it's too much. Just have a small amount is the right.
it's more like the allocation of funds needs to be utilized better, or people are taken care of so that their gifts can be utilized is the important thing.
Do you think greed should be completely done with at this point?
In a way, yes. Okay, so what is it? Like, basically, it was, like Ledoux said, greed is what makes people want to make things. However, if this person who's greedy is the one using their money to make things, but by doing so, they're keeping down 1,000, 100, even 10 other people who could do the same thing.
Too much greed.
What?
That's what I'm saying. That's an example of too much greed. To just want to make things and then have a nice life for yourself and by extension everyone else. That's the right amount of greed.
But that's not greed. That's not greed.
Just as a real world example, running hot and cold water is only exists in 15% of the homes on this planet. And I want every home on the planet to have hot and cold running water in their home. But that's a greedy thing to want. That's a huge amount of resources just for something that I feel is basic. But 85% of the world gets along without it just fine.
But that's technically, that's not greed. What you're talking about is altruistic. No, that's altruistic thoughts.
But it's wanting something that is ostentatious and luxurious.
No, okay.
Even though I want it for everyone.
Greed is for wanting, hoarding for. Hey, greed is wanting and hoarding for self. Like, it's not greedy to want to take care of everyone. That's what. One second. Okay. Greed.
But then if somebody attacks me and takes it because they don't have it, am I greedy for telling them no? Are they greedy for wanting it? I mean,
You're trying to break it down
thing-
further than what greed actually is, and greed is
I guess I would disagree on what greed is then.
but that's the thing.
Because,
It's a greed
like, as
is
a
a
core
desire for something,
thing,
an intense or it says selfish desire,
well,
I
it's just,
believe.
for
It
me, I stop at it's a desire for
no,
something.
but
The intensity
no, a,
the intensity is something we determine afterwards,
hey,
but
no, so
the intensity of it isn't the what
no,
makes it
no,
greed.
it's the selfishness, which is what, once
Okay,
again,
so
selfish of
what
a
is it
person. Wait,
to
lacking for
want
wait, no,
something
Ledoux, let me finish.
readily?
Hey, Ledoux, let me finish.
No, I'm just
Lacking
asking for a way
consideration for
of
no.
like,
Hey, Ledoux.
mhm,
Lacking consideration
okay,
for others. That is literally what I've
and
been
then
saying.
what? Okay. So what would the term be to want something in the right amount? And
Moderation. And
but
if you
I
want good
mean,
things for others, that's altruism.
but I mean, it's all still greedy.
No, that's greed. Once again. Okay,
But you're
I'm
taking
good.
those resources from others to hoard for the reasons that you want.
we're gonna
Like we could use those resources for other things,
hey, we're moving on
but we're
after.
using them for something frivolous,
Hey, we're
like
gonna
heating water.
no, we're gonna move on after this. Okay, this is after I share
Oh,
this.
In the
Just
comments.
okay. Intense and selfish desire for something,
mhm.
especially wealth,
Uh-huh.
power, or food. The meaning of
Yeah.
selfish is of a person or action lacking consideration for others, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. So greed
Mhm.
is related to yourself. That's what I'm saying. You can't disagree with the textbook definition, sir. You
I feel that I can. I can probably find a couple different dictionaries
no,
here and see if they have
but no,
different definitions
no,
because
but that's you
all
can't.
the different versions have different definitions.
Oh,
They have semantics.
no, but that's the thing, the do. Like, there are different words to mean different specific things. What you're talking about
Yeah.
isn't specifically greed, but it could be
Well,
like you're
it,
talking about altruistic. You're talking about like altruistic behavior as if it's greedy, but greed involves
but,
selfishness. Selfishness is the desire for improving, benefiting one's self. That it's not
but if
greedy.
we could say do something else with the power instead of heating water for every home, we could do something more important with it. Would it then be greedy to for me to want
No, because
hot and cold
because
running
once
water,
again,
even though we could do something more beneficial that like saves babies or something? Something just
you keep stepping away from the fact that greed involves you, the person. It's an
yeah,
individual.
I'm part of the group.
No,
I'm part of everyone.
Ledoux, you're still stepping. No, you're still stepping away. That greed is okay. Okay, it's it would be okay. There, let's call everything's a spectrum, right? And let's say there's a group of 10 people, and this group of 10 people has and there's another group of 10 people. It's greedy for this group of 10 people to take all the resources from the other group and bring it into their own group. Okay,
Mhm.
now it's greedy for an individual within that group to think that they deserve more of the resources than the other individuals within that group. It is not greedy to say, hey, I think that we should allocate these funds for something else. That's a whole different philosophical conversation, but that's not about greed. That's about just disagreements on what priorities are. That's completely different than greed.
It's me getting what I want, and everyone else just happens to also get that. It's still me getting what I want, though.
But one last time, I'm going to pull up the definition of greed, and then we're moving on. Okay.
You can read it 100
No,
times.
but it's lacking consideration for others, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. Yes, it can be greedy to do actions like that, but when you say it in a way that it's like there's two different things you can spend money on, that doesn't necessarily equate to greed. It equates to sometimes you have to make hard decisions. But now, to move on, okay, so Now, how neurodivergent. Sorry, what?
I was just kind of going, like, for somebody who started a business that's booming and someone else started a business in the same field that is not doing so well, for that one of the businesses to crush the other, would that be agreed, or?
See, that's still, now you're still making it too open. Did the person go out of their way to, are they going out of their way to crush them so that they can have all the benefit to themselves? Are they making that their priority? Is it just happenstance that it happens and they didn't even realize it's happening? Because if they're not realizing it's happening, how is that greedy? Like,
They know it's happening, they don't care.
then that's greedy. See, it's just, there's too many.
But we also call that, like, just a free trade, like.
But there's too much when it comes down, there's too much nuance. Each situation has to be read differently, and that's where it becomes kind of hard, and that's why we have to look at the specific meanings of every individual thing. Because when greed talks about selfish behavior, selfishness is about the self, you know what I mean, and benefiting the self, not the collective. It becomes more than just, it's like,
What is it, the collective that's acting?
Then the collective can be considered a single entity in that case. You know what I mean? We have to look at the nuance of everything, because when we try and overlook the nuance, it's when we start becoming divided and we start getting these ideas in our head that are incorrect. But now, how neurodivergence may have been helpful in the past, okay? So, we torn apart base instincts and called out the hoarding billionaires and compulsive baby makers. So, let's dive into something just as wild but way more hopeful. Neurodivergence might have helped us survive. I know, right? The thing that makes us feel out of place in classrooms or modern jobs might have actually made us tribal MVPs back in the day. Because society might say, you're too much, but evolution might have said, we need more of that. Let's start with ADHD. Which is basically like nature saying, let's do this important thing. Squirrel! Did you guys see it? Wow! So what were we doing again? So, hyper-awareness. The human alarm system. You know how people with ADHD can't sit still and notice everything except the thing they're supposed to focus on? Well, imagine you're in a Paleolithic forest and something rustles in the bush. Neurotypical Greg didn't notice. But ADHD cave kid? He's already halfway up a tree yelling, "Saber-tooth!" before Greg even looks up from licking a rock. That distractibility we get roasted for today, that was survival-based vigilance back then. Novelty seeking, that trailblazer energy. ADHD brains love new shit. So while the rest of the tribe is like, let's stay near the same watering hole we've used for years, we're over here like, yo, what's that suspiciously glowing moss 2 miles that way? Might be poison? Might be dinner. Might be a good time. Let's find out. We're the ones who discovered new hunting grounds, new berries, new death mushrooms, and the fun ones. Occasionally died, sure, but sometimes we found life-saving water or cool shit like obsidian. Evolution loves that roulette wheel. Hyper-focus, assassin mode. So yeah, we lose our keys, and yeah, we forget to eat. But put us in a high-stakes task we actually care about, laser, I do not know if I'm supposed to be able to say that word, laser effing focus. Okay. Cave dude who loses his loincloth and his medicine pouch, sees a deer, locks in, nothing else exists. For the next 2 hours, it's the Paleolithic version of going down a conspiracy theory rabbit hole starting at 10 p.m. and suddenly realizing the sun is streaming in through your windows, telling you that you definitely ain't sleeping, fam. That's the ancestral hyper-focus trait. Not good for spreadsheets, incredible for stalking prey and inventing the spear thrower. Rapid context switching. Adaptation beast mode is basically what that is. In modern jobs, they call it task switching disorder. In a hunting party, oh shit, there's a bear, drop the roots and grab the spear. It's not dysfunction, it's a dynamic response to chaos. Like jazz, but with survival stakes. And other flavors is neurospice, because ADHD ain't the only one with ancestral perks. So, my friends, or should I say weirdos who decided to listen to this idiot who ain't shit, we got a whole neurodivergent lineup. Autism, the tribal tool god. Folks on the spectrum often hyper-focus on specific topics. Back in the day, while y'all were vibing around the fire, I spent 4 years perfecting the spearhead and accidentally invented surgery. Autism brings pattern recognition, precision, and innovation. Doesn't talk much? Cool. Talking doesn't build better arrows. Let them live in their heads and bring them some dinner when they forget that eating is necessary to survive. Dyslexia. The 3D navigator vibes. Can't read? Don't need to. There were no books. But dyslexic minds often see spatial layouts, big picture strategies. Who planned the ambushes? Who remembered the oral lore of migration routes and safe caves? Probably someone who'd be tossed in a smaller class away from the normies today. Back then, though, living GPS. We like to call basic people tools, but these neurodivergent assets were literally tools necessary for survival. OCD, the camp safety supervisor. Hey, y'all, I checked the perimeter again. And again. And, yeah, I'm going to check it just one more time tonight just so we don't die. I lied. I'm checking it again. OCD tendencies in ancestral society? Essential for safe food, clean water, nothing left out to attract predators, emotional support via rituals that comfort the anxious. Today it's called overkill. Back then, camp survived winter because of that guy. Tics and Tourette's, the startle sentinel. Random movements and sounds might seem disruptive now, but in a predator zone, a sudden noise or movement could startle a lurking animal or accidentally warn the group. That jolt could save lives, and if not, well, some groups might have even interpreted it as divine speech, adding a spiritual role to the person doing it. So, the neurodivergent mosaic. Here's the real kicker. Ancestral bands didn't need everyone to be the same. They needed scouts, inventors, storytellers, map makers, paranoid camp dads, chaotic prophets ranting about signs from the gods. And evolution said, let's keep this shit going. So, what modern society calls disorder, ancestral societies might have called gifted, vital. A little weird, but really useful, so leave them alone because they make great fire pits. So, if you've ever been called too much or wondered why you can't sit still or why the classroom felt like prison but forests feel like church, maybe, just maybe, you were built for the tribe, not the cubicle. You were built to light the fire, chase the noise, and dream the dreams no one else could explain. So embrace that neuro flavor, friend. The ancestors were rooting for you back then, and now I'm here to do it for them. Just remember, you still ain't shit. And you are also all of it. Okay, now let's get to the good stuff. Neurodivergence and connection to source, or in Abrahamic mythos terminology, the prophets. Crazy? Maybe. Correct? Maybe. At least even though the prophets had a voice in their head, it told them to spread love and not, go out and murder that squirrel that's been talking shit for the last 3 weeks. So, alright, you've laughed. You've nodded. Maybe you felt a little seen. So now let's go deeper. Because what if the voices in your head weren't madness, but mission? But before that, because I ain't shit, I'm going to still throw it back to the ain't shit crew. What do you guys got to say?
So we're talking about autism and prophets?
Well, we were about to. I was just talking about autism and survival. Well, evolution back then. The next step is the neurodivergence and the prophets. But, I wanted to at least give you guys more moments to talk this time because last time it didn't go as smooth. Any comments about what I just shared?
I'm ready to jump into the prophets.
Jump in the realms of crazy, Ledoux?
Yeah, I'm kind of cool not having one bad season be the difference between survival for half my tribe and me or not. I like having the stores of food that we have now and different options, but it'd be nice to be out in the field more.
Fair enough. Okay, let me get a drink of water and then we'll continue on.
Sometimes I yearn for the fields.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Daddy. Okay, I love you. You ain't shit, though.
You ain't shit.
Okay. So, neurodivergence and prophets of the past. I can actually bring up Merp again. Because, no longer, Merp, look at him. He's just okay. He's just as a baby. Okay. So, neurodivergent prophets. The holy crew with scripture to back it up. So, all right, here's the cosmic question. Were a lot of prophets and other biblical icons, basically the original neurodivergent superstars, the more you read their stories, the more you think, wait, this might be an ADHD meltdown in the desert, or an autistic hyperfocus on moral law, or a total OCD-like ritual, or even schizotypal hallucinations. They parted seas, saw wheels full of eyes, flipped tables, walked around in camel hair bathrobe munching locusts. Not exactly typical behavior. Yet far from disqualifying them from spiritual authority, these weird behaviors often became the channels for some of the most profound revelations in history. Maybe the glitch was the gift, and the voice in the head might have been genuine divine inspiration, heard only because their brain was wired differently. Today, we'd probably medicate them. 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, they shaped entire civilizations. So, let's see how it all shakes out. We'll do a highlight reel of some major figures, plus some short scripture quotes so you can read for yourself. Okay. Moses, the autistic visionary with a stutter and a staff. Speech struggle. Exodus chapter 4, verse 10. And Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. Moses literally tries to opt out of leadership because he can't speak well. That's not your casual, charismatic frontman. Possibly a language processing difference, a stutter, or just crippling public speaking anxiety. Strict moral structure. This is just a partial quote from Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 3. And God spake all these words, saying, Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The Ten Commandments, okay? They are the epitome of black and white, rigid moral code, something that can map well onto an autistic worldview craving clarity and structure. Overwhelming radiance. Exodus 34, verses 29 and 30. Shortened up. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come nigh him. His face glowed so strongly that others freaked out and he had to veil himself. That might have just been sensory overload in reverse. Maybe he was the source, and everyone else just got overwhelmed for once. So, Moses is basically the guy who needed step-by-step instructions from God, had his brother Aaron speak for him, and got along just fine with tablets of stone and a set of inflexible laws. That's a classic accommodated environment, if you ask me. Job, the spiral sage in a trauma loop. Ritualized anxiety. Job 1:5. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them. For Job said, It may be that my sons have sinned. Thus did Job continually. He's offering sacrifices constantly, just in case his kids have sinned, with screams, religious OCD or anxiety-based ritual. Existential meltdown. Job 3:11. Why died I not from the womb? Why did I not give up the ghost when I came out of the belly? He curses the day he was born, launching into 42 chapters of anguished overthinking. That's a relentless ruminative loop if there ever was one. So the neurodivergent spin. Job is stuck in a cataclysm of suffering, refusing to accept easy platitudes. He's got a rigorous moral code, but also tears it all down, searching for real meaning. That level of philosophical deep dive might look like a meltdown in modern terms. John the Baptist, the sensory-seeking hermit screaming, repent. Camel hair and locusts. Matthew 3:4. And the same day, John had his raiment of camel's hair, and his meat was locusts and wild honey. A bizarre clothing choice, itchy and unconventional, plus an odd diet. Classic non-neurotypical behaviors or hyperfixations, possibly a sign of rejecting normal society. No filter with authority. Matthew 14, verses 3 and 4, partial. For Herod had laid hold on John, for John said unto him, It is not lawful for thee to have her. He calls out King Herod for marrying his brother's wife, thus landing himself in prison. That's speaking truth to power, with zero regard for personal safety or social niceties. Now the neurodivergent spin. John is the meltdown prophet. He doesn't do subtle. He goes all in on a singular mission. Repent. Modern folks might label that a near-obsessive focus on moral purity. He's intense, withdraws to the wilderness, and emerges only to holler at crowds. I need to crack my neck real quick. Ezekiel, the schizotypal visionary with wheels and eyes everywhere. Wheels full of eyes. Ezekiel 1:16 through 18 partial. Their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel, and they were full of eyes round about. He describes a cosmic chariot of unimaginable complexity, like spiritual geometry 101. Could be a psychotic hallucination, or a genuine mystical download. Scroll eating, Ezekiel 3:1 through 3 partial. Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, eat that thou findest, eat this roll, and it was in my mouth as honey. He literally eats a roll or a scroll or maybe some, little magic mushrooms. You never know. Because God told him to. Then he does outlandish sign acts like laying on his side for 390 days. Ultra literal obedience, hyper focus, maybe some time to form bizarre performance art. So the neurodivergent spin. If you read Ezekiel in the 21st century, you might think this man needs help. But historically, he's revered for capturing intensely detailed cosmic visions, possibly schizotypal or psychosis adjacent, but also profoundly creative. And now, before I start on some of the more next one's Jesus, not where I'm ending it. I'm gonna toss it to the ain't shit crew for a second. Ain't shit crew, tell me ain't shit. Tell me what you got, what you're thinking so far. Thank you for that.
I did not know that story about Ezekiel lying on his side for that long. That sounds very autistic.
I mean, yeah.
I hope somebody brought him food and water.
Well,
took away his diaper.
He lived, so I would assume that there was a bare minimum.
I mean, God might have intervened or something. I don't know. I wasn't there.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so
I mean, there's other bodily functions that have to be dealt with.
Oh, dude, he was just laying in his own shit.
Okay. Now, Jesus. What do you guys think I'm going to claim Jesus to be?
The ultimate autist.
I was like, he did too much networking and talking to people, so.
But he also retreated. He also went into solitude for a while, which could be, he needs to reset his social battery.
I'm gonna throw ADHD masking as autism.
You can technically have both, but we got one guess. Danny?
I'm saying Asperger's.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Okay. The table flipping autistic empath. He retreats to pray. Okay, because he gets overwhelmed with emotions. Luke 5:16. And he withdrew himself into the wilderness and prayed. He often bounces from the crowds to find solitude, like a coping strategy for overstimulation or a need to recharge in the quiet. Now, this is one of my the temple tantrum. John 2:14 to 15 partial. Found in the temples those that sold oxen. He drove them all out and overthrew the tables. That's a meltdown level response to perceived injustice. No gentle discourse, just flipping tables to cleanse the environment. A hyper focus on principle overriding social decorum. Radical empathy. Luke 24:34 or 23:34. Sorry. Then said Jesus, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He forgives the people literally crucifying him. That's compassion so intense it feels beyond typical human scope. Possibly a morally black and white stance about unconditional love. Matthew 5:39. But I say unto you that ye resist not evil, but whoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. For this one, I really can only say, my guy, it's good in theory, but it really only gives them another target to balance out your now half-broken face. I jest, but I do want to comment on this. Defend yourself against physical harm, but turn your cheeks to attacks on your spirit. You can't make the world a better place if your jaw is broken in two places, though. Just saying. So, the neurodivergent spin. Jesus reads hearts, not social codes. He used stories, parables, instead of direct instructions, maybe because nuance was easier for him. He also had mineral tolerance for hypocrisy, and yes, he let Judas eat at the table, fully aware of the betrayal. That's boundary-breaking compassion that can come with certain neurodivergent empathic profiles. Peter, the ADHD apostle with zero chill, walks on water and then sinks. Matthew 14:29-30, partial. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid and beginning to sink. He's good to go while hyper-focused on Jesus, but the second a new stimulus, the wind, distracts him, meltdown, ADHD level shift in attention. Interrupting God, Matthew 17:5, partial. Well, he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. This is my beloved son, hear ye him. Peter's literally talking over Jesus mid-transfiguration, so God the Father steps in like, bro, hush. Classic ADHD blurting. The impulsive sword, John 18:10, partial. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and smote the high priest's servant. Jesus just told them to handle it peacefully, and Peter's immediate reaction is to go full swordsman. That's emotional reactivity in a crisis. Neurodivergent spin. Peter's a roller coaster of devotion, meltdown, loyalty, regret, and impulse. Yet Jesus calls him the rock of the church. ADHD isn't a flaw in the kingdom. Apparently, it's the foundation. Mary Magdalene, the deep feeling channel with trauma and vision. 7 demons. Luke 8:2, partial. Mary called Magdalene, out of whom went 7 devils. This might signify intense emotional/spiritual torment. Some kind of meltdown or mental anguish that Jesus healed. Not recognizing the risen Jesus. John 20:14. She turned herself back and saw Jesus standing and knew not that it was Jesus. She's so overwhelmed by grief that she can't process who's right in front of her. That's big time shock or disassociation. The first witness. John 20:18. Mary Magdalene came and told the disciples that she had seen the Lord. She's the first to see resurrected Christ, and the guys don't believe her. Possibly that classic neurodivergent experience. I see something you can't, so you dismiss me. Neurodivergent spin. Mary's raw sensitivity, intense sorrow, and unwavering loyalty, staying at the tomb, after everyone left, all point to a deep empathic or traumatized mindset. She's wide open, enough to see truths others miss. Perfect channel for cosmic revelation. So, why does this matter? Because these folks, weird as they were, shaped entire spiritual traditions. We often forget that their behaviors and mental states, so unusual, so intense, might easily be called disordered in modern times. But historically, their differences gave them an edge in perceiving divine signals. So, neurodivergence and plus spiritual insight can lead to breakthroughs the rest of the group can't see. If your writing is off the beaten path, maybe you're more open to out-of-the-box revelations, or you might sense an empathy that surpasses normal boundaries. The irony is, what we might medicate away or dismiss as dysfunction today could be exactly what parted the Red Sea or glimpsed heaven's geometry. So, I'm going to open it back up one more time to my fellow idiots before we wrap it up.
I have heard a thing about Jesus might have been sarcastic when he called Peter the rock of the church, and he was kind of just saying he wasn't very smart. But
I take offense to that.
Yes, I was like, I don't know if I believe it.
So I'd have to do more research, but apparently Jesus, there was times when he'd make jokes, you know what I mean? But also Peter went on to push the church farther, he pushed Christianity out pretty far later past Jesus. Like he became, I think there's there's 2 Peters, is it? And there's that's one second. 2 Peters of the Bible. It's like the greater Peter and the lesser Peter, I think, right? I'm gonna have to look that up. That's a conversation for another day. Yeah. Okay. Continue on, ain't shit crew.
I forget the other things I was thinking of.
I'll remember them because I got nothing. Today was more of me learning shit than.
There was something in the beginning talking about the prophet stuff. Can't remember what though.
Do you want me to go over the list of prophets again real quick?
Oh no, I lost
think it's
it.
Interesting how. I think it's interesting how all the prophets, it's like they all had this need to go back into solitude and like recharge themselves. Like it seems like Jesus did it, Muhammad did it, Moses did it.
When you're that sensitive to like energies, other people's energies, you gotta kind of recharge. You know what I mean? Like especially like healing energies. Typically is said that you're taking on their bad energy. And like if Jesus was like, say, he could absorb dark energies from people. Yeah, sometimes you're gonna need to recharge your battery. Like,
Yeah.
I just really like the temple tantrum because I think that's probably my greatest one of my favorite lines from this. Any last comments, Ledoux, before I call back out to you guys? So when we do our wrap up.
No.
Okay. Well, then this is the final takeaway, guys. Remember, you ain't shit, and neither were they. So if you're ADHD, autistic, OCD, schizotypal, congrats! You share traits, or more likely than not, with the very people who parted seas, wrestled angels, or preached love in the face of hatred. They weren't saintly by typical standards. They fumbled, they melted down, stuttered, argued, and even ate bugs. But that's who God allegedly tapped on the shoulder and said, "You'll do." You aren't perfect. They weren't either. But from them came moral codes, spiritual awakenings, and radical compassion that still ripple through billions of lives. That's big hope for the rest of us anxious, meltdown-prone weirdos. If their glitches turned out to be cosmic gifts, maybe ours can too. In short, we're all messed up. We're all not enough. And yet that might be precisely why neurodivergent folks are chosen to show that it isn't about looking normal or measuring up. It's about openness. It's about truth. And sometimes it's about flipping a table when hypocrisy needs to go. So to go forth, neurodivergent prophets, melt down if you must, speak your truth, see the unseen. You might just spark the next revelation. Just remember this. If you speak with love in your heart and spread it to all, then you are doing nothing wrong. So to all the neurodivergent saints in the making, to the ones who fidget during prayer, to the ones who stim in silence, to the ones who cried at the sky and heard it whisper back, you are not broken. You are the radio tuned to the right frequency. So say the weird thing. Feel too much. Love too hard. Dream in spirals. And remember, they weren't chosen because they were perfect. They were chosen because they were impossible to ignore. And neither are you. So, guys, say your goodbyes before I do my little sign out.
All right. I really enjoyed this episode. I think this episode highlights neurodiversity's potential role in shaping spirituality and encourages religious people to value autistic individuals. And good night, y'all.
You ain't shit.
You ain't shit either.
Ledoux?
Yep, it was a good time. Also, night, y'all.
So, on that note, I want to remind everyone to look at themselves in the mirror and say, I love you. Remember, the link to my Pay What You Want self-love book and audiobook is in the description. And I hope you all check it out. So, peace, love, unity, respect. Higag out.